Shalom Aleichem, Rabbi Kovacs here. Mishnah Yomi is picking up in chapter 11, the last parak of Sanhedrin, Mishnah Bet. Now in Mishnah Aleph we had a whole list of people who, if they're convicted, receive an execution, capital punishment, through chenek, through strangulation. And one of these is Zaken Mamre, a sage rebelling al pi beitin, against the ruling of the high court. So the high court has made an official ruling and he is publicly disagreeing, as we will see. Shedamar, as the verses describe him in Parshat Shoftim, Devarim, Deuteronomy, chapter 17. Ki apolei mimcha davar lemishpat. If there's something wondrous or hidden or difficult for you in a matter of judgment. And the verses there in chapter 17 go on to explain you go up to the place that Hashem will choose, ends up being the temple, the high court, the Sanhedrin, and a man who does not listen will die. So now the Mishnah explains it's not just the one court that's there. Shlosha batei dinin hayusham. There's actually 3 courts of increasing importance that are there at the temple. Echad yoshev al petach harabait. One is at the entrance to the Temple Mount. Echad yoshev al petach hazara. One is at the entrance to the Azara, the courtyard of the temple itself. And these were both courts with 23 justices. And their primary goal was keeping people who are ritually impure out of the temple and making sure the Kohanim that were coming to serve were fit to serve. But of course, they are a valid Sanhedrin to try this capital case as well. The Echad, and the third, the highest court, Yoshev Lishkat Gazit, is the Sanhedrin of 71, which sits in the Lishkat Gazit, the chamber of hewn stone, which is in the wall of the temple. So it's actually partially within the Azara, but partially outside. So when the sage, who might be rebellious, has a disagreement with his fellows in his own court, or of course with the high court, as we'll see, Baim lezei she'al petach harbait. He first comes to the court at the entrance to the Temple Mount, Va'omer, and he says, Kach darashi, this is the drasha, the teaching, the explanation I made, V'kach darshu chaverai. And the other sages, the other judges in my city, they disagreed. They said differently. Kach limadti, this is what I taught my students. V'kach limdu chaverai. And this is the other teaching that disagrees that my colleagues taught their students. So there's a dispute about what to actually do, halacha l'maisi. So im shamu, if the judges at this court, at the entrance to the temple, omrim lahem, they would tell them if they had heard a psak, a relevant ruling on this issue. Ve'im lav, if there wasn't a psak, there wasn't really a decided halacha in this matter, or at least they hadn't heard it, bayin lahen le'otan she'al petach hazara. They go to the higher court, also court of 23, which is at the entrance of the Azara, the temple courtyard. Ve'omer, and the sage again, he explains, kach darashti v'kach darshu chaveroi, this is our disagreement. Kach limati, this is what I taught. Kach limdu chavari, this is what my fellows taught, and disagreeing with me. Im shamu, if they heard an official psak or a mesura, something reliable on this topic, omrim lahem, they would tell everyone involved what the psak halacha l'maisa is to do. Im lav, but if not, elu ve'elu, they all come ba'im lebeit din godol sheb'lishkazin, to the high court of 71. Shememenu yotzet Torah l'kol Yisrael. From there comes the, it's kind of like the appeals court, kind of like the Supreme Court, lahavdil, that when they make a psak, it applies to all the Jewish people. And as an aside here, we do find that local courts could establish local customs. Of course, they couldn't make a ruling against the Torah, but local places had their own customs. And that's always been an accepted part of Jewish life. So what's the source that the high court overrules anything? Shenamar, minamakabahu asher yivchar Hashem. From that place that Hashem has chosen to be the temple, that's also the place of the high court. So once the Sanhedrin Gadol has made a ruling, Chazar le'iro, the Zaken returns to his city, V'shana v'limed kederach shahaya lamed potter, and he continues teaching his teaching, even though it disagrees with his fellows, and even if it disagrees with the ruling of the high court, if he's teaching it, he's potter, he's not liable to be executed. V'im hora lasot chayev, if he instructs people to do like his teaching, halacha l'maisi, to actually put it into practice in opposition of the high court, he is liable to death. Shenamar, as the pasuk says in Shoftim, v'ha'ish asher ya'aseh bizodon. So the man who will do, meaning he has to tell people to actually do this willingly, Eino chayev ad sheyore lasod. He's not liable to the death penalty unless he tells people to do like his opinion after the high court has ruled the opposite. The Mishnah adds, Talmid, a student, shahora lasod pater, that he's telling people what to do in disagreement with the high court. He's pater. I mean, he's just a student. He's not a sage. He's not an elder. Nimsa chumro kulo. So we find that he's doing something seriously wrong to be instructing people in opposition to the high court, but it's a kula because he's not really qualified to be a judge and an elder. He's merely a student. People shouldn't really be listening to him anyway. Now, Mishnah Gimel adds to our understanding of the Zaken Mamre, Homer b'divrei sofri midivrei Torah. It's actually worse if he's telling people to transgress a rabbinical law than a Torah law written in the Tanakh. Ha'omer ein tefillin kedei la'avor al divrei Torah. It's, for example, he tells people, you don't have to put on tefillin because he wants them to transgress what's clearly written in the Torah. Pater, he doesn't get a death penalty because it's so obvious that he's making a mistake. Everyone's wearing tefillin. Everyone's been wearing tefillin for hundreds, thousands of years. Their fathers and their grandfathers. If one elder says don't wear tefillin, everyone knows he's wrong. So he's not really misleading anyone and he's not executed. But if he says chamesh totafot lahosif al divrei sofrim, he says there's actually, instead of 4 boxes in your tefillin, there's 5 boxes in your tefillin. So he's adding on to the rabbinical requirement that there be 4 boxes. He's saying, no, it's 5 boxes. So in this case, chayev, he could be liable to the death penalty because this mistake is less obvious and he can be quite misleading to other people. So telling people the wrong rabbinical law, the wrong drasha, is actually worse than telling them something that's clearly written in the Torah that everyone can go into shul and look in the Torah and find out. Yeshar kochachem tizku lemitzvot.